Hello, welcome to NEDA's Warrior Experience. I'm Joan DiFilippo, the Director of Fundraising and Community Engagement at NEDA, and I'm so honored to be here with all of you on this Sunday morning. We love hearing from our passionate NEDA community, and we encourage all of you to tell us what being a NEDA warrior means to you. We asked on social media what being a NEDA warrior means, and I'd like to share some of the words that people submitted. Please be sure to use hashtag NEDA warrior on all of your social media. Some of the words we heard are hope, strength, courage, freedom, community, tenacity, recovery, vigor, healing, pride, self-worth, power, authenticity, bravery, and resilience. Community is the foundation of our work here at NEDA. You are the reason we do what we do. We all know that the pandemic has been tough, especially for those struggling with eating disorders. But during these tough times, our community has proven to be even tougher. Today is for you and about you. Today we celebrate, we support, we honor all of the lives affected by eating disorders. I'm excited about our Warrior Experience program as it's going to be interactive. Who doesn't love a good game of bingo? I know I do, especially when there are prizes for the winners. So you'll all have to pay close attention. I'd like you to open your bingo card that was emailed to you this week. If you can't find it, we can send you a card through the Q&A. But that section is at the bottom of your screen. Please put your email there and Yasmin will send you a link to the card. Play along with us today. It's going to be fun. It's interactive. Just go to that link and you can click the X as you hear each word that's said. Watch your card as you're listening to the amazing speakers we have lined up because maybe you'll find something they say on your bingo card. When you fill a row, either up and down, across, or diagonal, write bingo with your full name in the Q&A section. The first 10 people to get bingo will be mailed some NEDA merchandise pack that includes a coffee mug, socks, a pin, a bracelet, a notebook, a bandana, and a great bag. Let's get started. Let's play. I'd like to introduce Yasmin Meerweed, Associate Development Manager here at NEDA. Many of you have spoken with Yas over the past few weeks. She has been with NEDA almost 10 years, and we are thrilled to have her as part of the events team this year. Yas?
Good morning, everyone. Before we begin our inspirational program, I want to go over a few housekeeping items for today. In true NEDA fashion, we will be taking questions for our speakers. Everyone loves to ask questions. Here's your chance. The Q&A box at the bottom of your screen will be active throughout the program. Feel free to ask your questions at any time, and we will answer as many as we can during the Q&A portion of the program. Please include your email address in the event we are unable to get to your questions. We will do our very best to answer all questions. However, if we are unable to do so, we will be happy to forward your question to our fantastic speakers to answer after the event. Thanks to all of you for your fundraising efforts for the Warrior Experience. Anyone who raised $50 or more will be receiving a NEDA Warrior t-shirt in the mail. If you're not quite there yet, there's still time as fundraising will remain open until July 27th. You also still have time to earn some really cool NEDA gifts as a thank you for your support. When you raise $150, you can choose to receive this NEDA phone wallet for all your shopping. Or you can keep going. When you raise $1,000, you might want this cozy fleece. We know you'll keep going, and when you raise $5,000, you will receive the complete combo pack with the mini backpack. You will receive an email on July 28th to redeem your gift. Happy fundraising, and thank you for all you are doing for NEDA. As you all know, we love to bring everyone together regularly. On July 21st, we are planning a NEDA trivia night. We have a great time planned with Ollie Baig from Baig of Tricks. The great news is you can hold a trivia party, participate with a team, in person or virtually. And if you prefer to play alone, you can do that too. More information to come in the next couple of weeks. And of course, there will be prizes for the NEDA trivia winners. Be on the lookout for more information. Today, we celebrate the success of the Warrior Experience participants. Without you, we could not continue offering our frontline resources. Every service provided by NEDA is free because of the amazing fundraising our warriors do. Remember to share your pictures from today using hashtag NEDA Warriors on your social media so we can share, and be sure to check out the resources on our website at nationaleatingdisorders.org.
Thank you so much, Yaz. She's a Spitfire, isn't she, you guys? Let's get our warrior experience started. And speaking of our NEDA warriors, it's time to congratulate our top NEDA warrior fundraisers. So please join me in celebrating these individuals and their teams for their amazing success. Our top 3 individual personal fundraisers are Emilia Beuger, who raised $2,231. Great job, Emmy. Jamie Gerlowski, who raised $1,230. That's awesome, Jamie, thank you. And Jennifer Kulik, who raised $1,025. Thank you so much to all 3 of you for your amazing work. And now our top 3 team. We have I'm Perfectly Perfect, who raised $1,300. Thank you all. We have Team NIF, who raised $1,025. That is awesome. Thank you so much. And we have Team Beekler, who raised, I'm not sure what, but thank you so much to Team Beekler. Team Beekler, $825. That is awesome. Thank you so much for everything all of you have done. We keep reminding you that fundraising will close on July 27th. And one of the reasons why is this fantastic opportunity for you to help us reach our goal, which is $62,000. You can get something really cool starting today. For every $100 you raise, you will be entered to receive a $150 gift card from K-Deer. Our fundraising deadline again is July 27th, so you have a full 30 days to do this. So if you raise $100, you'll get 1 entry. If you raise $500, you'll get 5 entries. So please make sure you take advantage of this. If you don't know what K-Deer is, check it out. It is some really great active wear, and it is non-gender specific. It fits everyone. It goes from sizes small to 4XL. They are very, very comfortable and very cute too. Part of their Emmy striped leggings, part of the proceeds go right back to NEDA. We appreciate everything from K-Deer. Our funds help support NEDA's helpline and other frontline resources for more than 2 months. This means a lot, not just to us, but to that person on the other end. Thank you so much on behalf of all of those affected by an eating disorder. We are so grateful to all of you for your fundraising efforts and appreciate you raising awareness and critical funds. Remember, our fundraising will remain open until July 27th. And please include your fundraising link when you do post on social media. A huge thank you to all of our sponsors. Without their continued support and unwavering commitments of our sponsors, individuals and families would not receive the resources and the help that they need, like the helpline, when they need it most. Thank you again to our Warrior Experience. Our presenting and national sponsor is Eating Recovery Center. Our champion sponsor is ED Care, Veritas, Montecatini, the Renfrew Center, and our fighting sponsor is the Emily program. Thank you all again. Now I proudly introduce our MC, who happens to be our very own Gabe Gavito. Gabe is NEDA's program manager who seamlessly coordinates our volunteers and our helpline. Gabe, thank you so much for being here, and the program is yours.
Great. Well, thank you, Joan, and good morning, everyone. So first off, I'd like to thank you all for joining us today to be a part of the Warrior Experience. Your tremendous contributions and fundraising efforts truly have a profound impact, especially when an individual struggling with an eating disorder or family member who's concerned about their loved one contacts our national helpline to seek support. So as Joan just briefly mentioned, my name is Gabe. I'm the program manager here at NEDA. I've been a NEDA staff member for the past 8 years, but I myself was a volunteer on our helpline and online forums. So I recognize how important NEDA's mission is to you. It's the reason why you're all here today. NEDA supports individuals and families affected by eating disorders and serves as a catalyst for prevention, cures, and access to quality care. You know, when I first read this mission statement, I knew that there was no doubt in my mind that I wanted to be a part of NEDA to support those reaching out for help. Volunteers are critical to the work we do here at NEDA. The work that NEDA does could not be possible without the tremendous contributions and support from volunteers. From helpline volunteers who offer live support through phone, chat, and text, to NEDA walkers and warriors who help fundraise for resources, to our forum moderators, our ambassadors, board members, clinical advisors, and much more. Volunteers are an integral part of our community. I would now like to present a video from some of our amazing helpline volunteers sharing what volunteering at NEDA means to them.
Hello everyone, my name is Jasmine Cornell and I'm from Georgia.
I am from Hong Kong but currently living in Los Angeles, and I've been a helpline phone volunteer with NEDA for the past 9 months now.
I'm from Fairfield County, Connecticut, and I've been working on the NEDA helpline for the past 3 years.
I am from Queens, New York, and I've been a helpline volunteer for the past 6 years.
About 4 months ago, I started working with the National Eating Disorders Association, and about 2 months ago, I accepted my first volunteer shift.
I joined the helpline because I have a personal history with an eating disorder. I know how difficult it can be for anyone impacted.
That's really why I wanted to volunteer with NEDA, was to be able to help others find answers, resources that can not only help them, but maybe also their loved ones.
You know, falling in love with something like that, where you're able to give out these resources to the community and seeing firsthand the impact is something that, you know, I can't even describe in words.
You know, you can just hear the relief and gratitude in their voices on the phone. For me, that's the most rewarding thing, is, you know, really feeling like you're helping somebody in one of the toughest moments of their life.
While volunteering, I felt a sense of fulfillment when a chatter whom I had just shared resources with included in their feedback. It's easy to feel alone. Thank you to whoever was on the other side of this chat.
You know, coming from a Latina background, first generation, eating disorders isn't something that is really talked about openly. Talking in my native language, Spanish, it brings me joy because I am helping out.
And it teaches you a lot of these communication skills that I've been able to translate in my own life, and it's definitely helped strengthen my, you know, individual relationships in life as well. So, you know, it's been a really incredible experience.
That's why I continue to stay on for 6 years and hopefully for many more to come.
I know I'm certainly going to be working on the NEDA helpline for a long time.
Get involved and help NEDA make a positive impact on the lives of those affected by eating disorders and their family members.
Wow. Well, we hope you enjoyed the volunteer video. Volunteers are the heart of NEDA. And without our phenomenal volunteers, we would not be able to accomplish all that we do, especially with our helpline. Now, before I introduce our first speaker, remember your bingo card. And don't forget to type in bingo, B-I-N-G-O, with your full name in the chat box when you have 5 across, down, or diagonal. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our first speaker, Lynaé DePriest. Lynaé DePriest, also known as Thoughtress, pronouns they, them, is a multi-hyphenate creative born and raised in Illinois and based in New York City. They have been featured at Joe's Pub, Harlem Pride, FlameCon, The Wild Project, New York Theater Workshop, Caveat, The Tank, UCB, Magnet Theater, The Pit, Stonewall Inn, The Center, The Cell, The Crane, Bowery Poetry, and New Yorican Poets Cafe. You can also hear them chatting it up and performing on podcast episodes for Thank You for Coming Out, Geeks Out, Vox Celeste, Adventures in Black Cinema, and the Story Pirates podcast. When they aren't performing and creating, they volunteer as an advocate for rape crisis and intimate partner violence survivors, and share their experiences as a queer trans artist and eating disorder survivor through projects including NEDA by Video Out, BU, Stand with Trans, and Coloring Outside the Lines, The Loft. Lynnae, take it away.
Thanks, Gabe. And hello to everyone out there in the virtual world. Since we can't see you, I want to say hi and acknowledge that you are there. So my name is Lynnae, and I am a Black, queer, and trans non-binary eating disorder survivor. I say that for my inner child who smiles back at me through the wallpaper on my phone and for so many people out there who still rarely see themselves represented in the narrative. My eating disorder started developing when I was about 5 years old. There was no one specific cause or moment. It was a series of seeds planted in soil that happened to be ideal for them to thrive. So I grew up in the 80s and 90s, so the only representation I saw of eating disorders in the media was an HBO Life Stories special when I was 6 and a 60-minute special when I was about 17. Neither featured a Black survivor, which furthered the narrative that only white people could have an eating disorder. The ED unit in health classes always amounted to a basic 5-minute discussion that was breezed over, rushed, and really only ever listed anorexia and bulimia. And the definitions were extremely specific and 1 or 2 sentences maximum, which made it easy for me to other myself from both. Except for one time in junior high when a friend blurted out in front of the entire class, "Lynnae, isn't that what you have?" It wasn't a fumbled attempt to get me help. She thought the boy she liked in our class liked me, so. However, it was the first time that label came flapping through the wind and almost stuck to me. The next time actually was in high school after I'd gotten sick during an assembly. The school nurse questioned me a bit more directly, but it was easy for me to deny anything because the definitions I was taught in school did not fit me. If there had been a resource like the NEDA helpline, I could have gotten help and resources that I needed to begin my recovery journey in high school. Instead, it took another 10 years to get connected to any sort of treatment. In college, I finally realized that I had an eating disorder through taking a decal. There was a section about them in the class reader that contained thorough definitions, and I met other diverse people in class who were in various stages of their survivor journey. And although I didn't know my specific diagnosis, the label finally stuck. No more othering. I committed to doing whatever I could for myself until I could get into professional treatment, and had to keep advocating for myself for years before that happened. Turns out that the assumptions that I had made as a kid due to lack of representation was a real life hurdle that I had to overcome in order to gain access to treatment. I would tell doctors that I thought I was either bulimic or anorexic, hoping to get help. Instead, I was weighed and then questioned about my exercise habits and lectured on the importance of exercising daily. There was zero acknowledgement that there is no singular body type for any eating disorder, and no resources were ever offered to me to get treatment. I would tell friends and get the automatic once over of my body before dismissing me entirely. It took time, but finally, someone truly listened to me. I had just moved to New York City and needed to get a consult to get a refill on birth control pills, because that became the only time that I would disclose to doctors, because I learned that the side effects were a potential trigger for me, so that was important to disclose. The intake nurse actually listened to me. Finally, I was being heard and seen and validated without any judgment or implicit bias. I was immediately referred to the nutritionist on staff who actually specialized in eating disorders, and everything fell into place from there. I am so grateful to that intake nurse and everyone who has had a hand in my recovery journey. And I'm proud to say that I can recognize my triggers. I can set firm boundaries to keep myself safe without any shame. And in 2019, I was able to face my greatest fear of all and start dipping back into exercising solely for joy. Recovery also amplified my struggles with my gender assigned to me at birth, and how the pressure to perform a false version of myself may well have been the soil that allowed all the seeds to flourish. So 4 years into recovery, I was able to come out as trans non-binary and set myself free. Ironically, the same privilege people think they have to validate or invalidate someone's eating disorder is the same privilege people think they have when it comes to other people's gender identity. One part of the journey prepared me for the next. I found an amazing community of TGNC folks who overwhelmingly are also survivors, and I've learned that we are at a high risk for eating disorders. That is why I proudly proclaim that I am a Black, queer, trans non-binary eating disorder survivor. To continue to give voice to the inner child who smiles back at me through the wallpaper on my phone, and to show those who look like me that we do exist. You are not alone. You are valid. And though recovery is definitely not a straight line, you can keep getting back up. And there are people like me who are out here rooting for you to not only survive, but to thrive. Thank you.
Wow, Lynnae, thank you so much. It's so wonderful to have you join us again, and we appreciate all that you do for NEDA. You're working tirelessly and you're an inspiration to all. And we applaud you for your tremendous work in advocating for others. Now, our next speaker is no stranger to NEDA. Jenni Schaefer is an ambassador for NEDA, and we are so grateful to have her here today. Jenni has authored several books, including Life Without Ed, How One Woman Declared Independence from Her Eating Disorder and How You Can Too, and contributed to anthologies like the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. An ambassador with the National Eating Disorders Association and a Meadows Behavioral Healthcare Senior Fellow, she's a sought out after presenter on eating disorders, trauma, and post-traumatic stress disorder. Houghton Mifflin Harcourt will release Jenni's new book, which is about fighting through PTSD and finding a life worth living after trauma. For more information about Jenni, you can visit jennischaefer.com. Jenni, take it away.
Thank you, Gabe. You are such a great host, by the way, in case you ever wanted to do like a talk show or something. But I'm so honored to be here. And Lynnae, it was amazing to hear your story. Thank you so much. I'm excited to hear everybody else's story. But my story starts out actually about the same time Lynnae. I remember struggling on some level with food and body image at 4 years old. And it took about almost 20 years to reach out for help the first time. I was 22. I'll never forget. I was living in Nashville at the time. I hit rock bottom with my eating disorder. I had never gotten any kind of help at this point, never had even spoken that I had an eating disorder. And I stumbled upon somehow a NEDA pamphlet about eating disorders. And I read the definitions. And even though technically I probably fit into the anorexia category, I just didn't seem to fit in when I read it. You know, I always was finding a way to kind of disqualify myself. But I took a leap of faith and I decided to call the number on that little brochure, and it was the NEDA helpline. And I have to thank you guys because NEDA, you answered my call, and that really changed everything. And I want you guys to think about think about the first time you guys reached out for help, or if you're a loved one, think about the first time you tried to support someone. You know, that takes a lot of courage. It's really, truly a leap of faith. You jump and you don't know what's going to happen, right? So I actually want to tell you a short story. I promise it relates to recovery. And it's about a true, legit, authentic, you can't get more real than this leap of faith. It's about skydiving. Have any of you guys skydived? I'm curious. You can maybe post in the chat and I'll read it later. Curious how many of you guys have plunged yourself out of a plane. I actually discovered it has a lot to do with eating disorder recovery, and we'll get to that. But I was in New Zealand several years ago, and on my bucket list was to jump out of a plane. And I was terrified though. I was terrified. But I finally went to the skydiving place. They have a frightfully short video that you watch in New Zealand to learn how to skydive. It was like 2 minutes. So you watch the 2-minute video, you get in the plane, they put this big person on your back, the tandem master. I got a cute little red jumpsuit. They took me up in the plane, and I kind of just assumed when you went up in the plane, they would kind of just like push you out. Like, you know, they like once you go up in the plane, you're going to be a skydiver because like you're going to jump because they're just going to like push you out the door. Well, I found out they don't do that. They actually ask you, are you ready to jump? Do you want to jump? And I said, no, are you kidding me? Like jump out of a perfectly good airplane that's like at 100 miles per hour at 15,000 feet? No, thank you. And I held on tightly to like the pilot seat, which was very sturdy inside the plane. And they're like, are you sure you don't want to jump? The way down on the plane is way more scary. And I said, I'm sure. I was panicking in a paper bag, literally for the first time in my life, full-blown panic attack. Went down in the plane with the pilot. And when we tried to pay for me, the person at the desk said, well, no one's ever done that before. No, we don't even know what to charge you. No one's ever just taken a ride up and down a plane. So what do you guys think my first thought was? It was negative. It was, oh my gosh, you're such a loser. You're the only person in New Zealand who didn't jump out of the plane. But I learned in recovery that you must positively reframe things. And I actually thought about it later, and I was actually not the loser. I was actually the only person apparently in New Zealand who did not succumb to the peer pressure to jump out of a plane. And I was listening to my body. Jumping out of an airplane in the middle of a panic attack, breathing in a paper bag is simply not a good idea. So, but still, I landed and I really wanted to jump out of a plane. And I started thinking about how can I make this happen? And what I realized was if you apply eating disorder recovery skills to skydiving, you might be able to plunge out of a plane. And I've actually discovered if you can apply eating disorder recovery skills to a lot in life, we recover from our eating disorders to recover our lives. And so it's kind of cool when you start just applying different skills to different life things like jumping out of a plane. But I thought about it. There was so much in skydiving that related to my recovery, in that going up, not jumping, and coming down. It reminded me a lot of my recovery. For a long time, I felt like I was spinning my wheels, I was going to therapy, and I was lucky to have access to care. And I know not everyone does. I was going to therapy. I was going to dietitians. I was going to doctors. And I kind of thought, just like in the plane, if I go to these people, these experts, they're kind of going to like fix me, and when they fix me, at that point, like I'll stop binging, I'll start purging, I'll stop restricting, I'll stop compulsively exercising. But it was similar to the New Zealand experience. Ultimately, you get the skills in eating disorder recovery, you go to the treatment, and you go to groups and you get different skills. But when it comes down to it, you're the one who has to jump, right? Like my dietitian would say, follow this meal plan. Well, I'd say, well, I'll follow it when I love my body. Well, you follow the meal plan before you love your body. It reminded me very much of the skydiving experience. And I realized how much of my life did I spend in what I call like the recovery plane? So how much of my recovery was I up in the plane? I had tools. I'd been in recovery several years, but how many times was I at the hole in the plane and people were saying, you can jump, and my team is on my back and they're like, eat the food, do this, do that. The hard parts of recovery. Think about the very hard thing you do not want to do, or the one thing you're not telling your therapist. The hard parts is what I wasn't willing to jump, because I wanted people to prove to me, well, if you prove that recovery is good, then I'll jump. But that doesn't really happen. And what I learned was being in the recovery plane was progress in many ways, because I was at least in some kind of recovery. But what I learned is true freedom exists, outside of the plane. It's in the free fall. And I love what Lynnae said it's about thriving. It's not about surviving. And so I'm happy to say 5 days later in New Zealand, I applied my eating disorder skills to skydiving, and I jumped out of a plane, and it was awesome. And what I really looked at was attitude, commitment, support. I mean, my attitude the first time I went up in the plane was, I cannot do this, I'm terrified. I cannot do this, I'm terrified. I cannot do this, I'm terrified. I mean, what's the likelihood you're going to jump out of a plane if that's your mantra? And I realized in eating disorder recovery, I could not have a mantra that's, I'm never going to get better. I'm never going to get better. Because it used to be my mantra. It's fake it till you make it. And it sounds cliche, but it's so true. How do we talk to ourselves? I also realized commitment. When I get on that plane the second time, there's one way out. There's no ifs, thens, buts. And just like in recovery, think about, do you guys have any thresholds in your recovery? Is it, I will do what my therapist says when I feel like it, when I'm not scared, when I have, how many thresholds do we have? We have to take away those thresholds, and we jump, we commit to full recovery, full freedom, to that thriving, not surviving. The last key, we need support, right? And support in so much in life. And on the way to the skydiving place, I asked the person I was with, do you think we're going to be okay? And he said, well, there's a lot that could happen. He had researched like skydiving accidents. I'm like, that is not helpful. So I learned you have to teach people how to support you. The second time I tried to skydive, I asked this person, I told this person, when I ask you if I'm going to be okay, I need you to say yes, like yes. And I had to teach my family how to support me. This is what I need you to say. This is not helpful. And also I learned, a side note, I tend to be very detail oriented. And I have to say, I did Google skydiving accidents and things, and that's never a good idea. I read the waiver in detail, also not a good idea. And I realized in recovery, I was doing that a lot too. Super detail oriented, wanted to find out everything. And as soon as I know everything about eating disorders recovery, then I'm going to do it. Like, then I'll jump out of the plane. I got to get all the data first. But that's not what happens, right? We get the data when we take the plunge, and we take the plunge more times than once. It's not like you jump out of the plane and all of a sudden you're better. You know, you take the plunge more than once. And I want to challenge you guys today as we go through this seminar, you know, what is it that you feel like you need to jump in life? And if you're a family member or a support person, you know, think about what is it what's hard for you to do? What maybe you need to take care of yourself. Maybe that's the plunge. But I'd love to, you know, kind of use this seminar as a way to commit more to our own recoveries and whatever we're working on in life, whether we have an eating disorder or not. And I want to inspire you guys to never give up. As Gabe mentioned, I wrote a book, Life Without Ed. I want to show you all these letters. These are all rejection letters for that book. If you're very young, these are stamps, like they used to use these. There's no email. These all are letters that from different publishers that said, you're not good enough, you can't do this. I wrote that book and I got a publishing deal because I knew in recovery, you fall down 7 times, you stand up 8, and you keep standing. And I kept standing. Again, you apply eating disorder recovery to writing a book. You apply it to your life goals. And so that's how that book got done. But I want to encourage you guys, you know, never quit. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't forget why you're doing this. It's not just about the food or body image or exercise. It's about life. And I'm super excited to be here. So I will pass it on back to you, Gabe. If you do have a talk show one day, I would love to be on.
Awesome. Well, Jenny, thanks so much for sharing your story. It was really inspiring just to get a view from your perspective, and the correlation between your experience with skydiving and recovery, I think, is very relatable. So thank you so much for sharing that.
And I'm not promoting skydiving, by the way. So, you know, just a disclaimer.
Well, I mean, you know, Jenny, it really goes without saying that NEDA appreciates all that you've done and that you continue to do. You've been with us for such a long time, and we love seeing you. We love hearing what you've been up to. So please keep us updated on your next travels and your next adventure.
Totally. It's a full circle story. I mean, I never thought when I made that call to the helpline that I'd be here like doing something like this. It's crazy. And so thank you guys. I love what NEDA does.
Absolutely. Now, for all of our attendees here today, we know you have a lot of questions for our speakers. So if you had not time to put them in the Q&A section down below, please do so now, because we're going to get to those questions later on. Second notice, don't forget to mark off the words on your bingo card. Put bingo, B-I-N-G-O, in the chat box with your full name. When you have 5 across, down, or diagonal on your card, the first 10 to say bingo will win a fabulous prize, and we'll reveal the winners later on in our show. Now, our next speaker is a fearless fundraiser, and she set a goal of $200. Now, when she realized that she surpassed that pretty easily, she kept raising her goal. Emmy Beuger is currently a law student at the University of Pittsburgh School of Law and has a master's in public international law from Utrecht University in the Netherlands. She first became involved with NEDA in 2017 after attending the NEDA Amherst Walk. Emmy's currently in recovery and has found that advocacy through fundraising and education has been a driving factor in her continuing recovery. For the Warrior Experience, Emmy has individually raised over $2,000 by utilizing her social media presence at EMM_MI on all platforms, and by sending thank you notes to donors. Outside of law school and her legal internship, Emmy enjoys film photography, creative writing, snowboarding, and making coffee as a barista. Emmy Beuger, we're excited to hear from you, and it is now my pleasure to introduce you as our top fundraiser. Emmy, take it away.
Thank you so much, Gabe, and the rest of the NEDA team. It's an absolute honor to be speaking alongside my fellow presenters who have blown me away with their courage and their conviction today so far. So thank you so much. So I've struggled with an eating disorder since adolescence, and for a long time, I struggled in silence up until I started recovery. Many individuals with eating disorders struggle in a very similar way. We want to keep it a secret because this illness thrives on secrecy and isolation. But it wasn't until I had gone to a treatment facility where I had to find out how to move forward with my life, as it had been my eating disorder for so long. I often thought, how do I live a life without it? But also I wondered, is this going to define me for the rest of my life? And that relationship itself was so contradictory because it had been my companion for such a long time, yet I never verbalized it to anyone, especially myself, because I didn't want it to define me. The people close to me knew or had some idea what was going on, but I always felt like this was going to have to be a little secret that I would keep for the rest of my life, and I was determined to keep it that way. But as I started recovery, that belief started to change. When you start recovery, you have to determine what your motivations are. Some people's motivation are themselves, their family, their health. For me, it was my career. I wanted to go to law school. I wanted to be a lawyer. This was and still is a huge motivator for me. But as I've moved forward in my recovery, something else began to really motivate me. It started out really small. Around my first birthday in recovery, so about 1.5 years ago, I decided to hold a fundraiser for Project Heal, who's a partner with NEDA. I raised a few $100s, and most of the donors were family and close friends who knew what I'd gone through. However, I was still really uncomfortable talking about it openly and asking people to donate. And the people around me didn't really know how to talk about it. And it was clear that this topic was something to be kept between myself and my therapist. And even though I was starting to heal, I was dealing with a lot with shame and secrecy surrounding my eating disorder. As I started to meet new people in law school, it was always at the back of my head. Can I be honest with these people? Will they judge me for my past and what I'm going through right now? But I decided to kind of take that leap of faith, like what Jenny was talking about. In keeping with one of my goals in recovery, which was to fight perfectionism and idealism, I decided that maybe I could be open about it with people. I, of course, didn't share details, but I was honest. I started telling my study group, who were all fully supportive and never judgmental. They made me feel safe, and they made me feel proud of who I am and what I've accomplished thus far. I was taken aback by this. For so long, I've been conditioned to be ashamed of my eating disorder and its impact on my life. I lived in fear of people finding out for so long, and yet here I was openly telling people. And law school can be a toxic environment, but somehow it actually let me be more open about my eating disorder and my struggles than I ever have before. As I slowly progressed through these varying levels of openness, I started lobbying for bills with my local congressman for more funding for eating disorder research. And then I raised a couple $100 more for the virtual Eastern NEDA walk last October. But when NEDA announced the Warrior Experience, I decided I had to go all in. I started posting on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. I shared my favorite recovery accounts. I used my Instagram stories to shed light on recovery, its ups and downs, and all of the incredible things that NEDA does for the people with eating disorders. I utilized the poll feature to get individuals to Venmo me $3 or $5, which has led me to having at least 50 different individual donors. I designed my own stickers and I handwrote thank you notes to my donors, and then quickly had to order more stickers because I had so many people donating. The results honestly shocked me. I had classmates to whom I'd met once or twice donating. I had childhood friends and distant relatives donating. I even had my professors and legal professionals donating to my campaign. I could never have fathomed raising over $100 in a day, much less $500 in the first day of my campaign. As of today, I think I've raised $2,300 at least. And so the words that I've been so scared to say out loud for so long, just a year ago, are now paving the way to not only raising so much money for NEDA, but opening up a whole new community. Because I've been open about this, I've had peers reach out to me with their own experiences, either their own personal experience with eating disorders or knowing others with eating disorders. And I'm happy to say and refer them to the NEDA helpline and to help them find those resources, not only in Pittsburgh where I live, but across the country. And I just wanted to finish with this. There's something so spiritual about recovery. And they say this a lot in any kind of recovery from addiction or from eating disorders. And I never really understood that until a few months ago. I realized that I'm on this path for a reason. I realized that my motivation to recover is to continue fundraising, advocating, and educating people on these illnesses. Because I can't change my life. I can only embrace my past battles and use those to do good. Being able to fundraise for NEDA this year has been an absolute honor and pleasure to utilize such an integral part of who I am to help those who are struggling. Yes, my eating disorder does define me, but I'm here to say that it has helped define some of the best parts of me, and I would not change it for the world. Thank you.
Wow, Emmy, incredible. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with your eating disorder and for being so passionate about NEDA and the services that we offer, such as the helpline. It's obvious that you've utilized your strength from recovery and you have become an advocate for NEDA and will inspire others to take the mantle of recovery and to pursue it and to engage their community afterwards to help fundraise for our programs such as the helpline. Our final speaker today is Jennifer Trujillo-Armijo, and Jen is a licensed social worker in the state of New York, currently working as a clinical coordinator in Long Island City School. She specializes in treatment of adolescents and children. She's also a first-generation Mexican-American who believes in destigmatizing mental illness, not only in her community, but amongst the Latinx community. Along with volunteering at the National Eating Disorders Association, Jen has volunteered in her local community in Queens, New York, providing resources to adults and hopes to open up her private psychotherapy practice to be accessible to all with a specialization in eating disorder treatment. Jen, thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me. And honestly, like hearing from my fellow speakers, like after Jenny's speech, I'm definitely going to sign up to go skydiving. That was such an inspiration.
I love it. Send me pictures.
Yes. Oh my God. I'm super excited now. So good morning. My name is Jennifer Trujillo-Armijo, and I've been a helpline volunteer for the past 6 years. And right now I'm currently a clinical coordinator at Long Island City High School, where I provide therapy for high schoolers. Being a helpline volunteer for the past 6 years, I've seen the helpline grow from a small team to now having volunteers across the nation, which is honestly amazing. This growth has actually inspired me to stay on as a helpline volunteer and to continue supporting the helpline as it grows and to serve a community that is dear and close to my heart. Being a first-generation Latinx person, growing up in a traditional Mexican household, eating disorders are unheard of. What is an eating disorder? My mom would ask when I told her I would be volunteering at the National Eating Disorder Association. I tried to find a Spanish translation as my mother is only Spanish speaking, and I had to resort to Google to find a translation and definition. My mother was in shock, and my father as well, that there was such a thing as an eating disorder. As the years went on, I volunteered and gained more experience. I would rush home and tell my mom information on eating disorders. She would ask more questions. I would answer them. I did not have all the answers, let alone in Spanish, but I told her that I would learn more about it. As the years went on, I began noticing more Spanish speakers calling the helpline, worried about their children who would have symptoms of an eating disorder, but they weren't really sure. Sorry. Some of the callers hit close to home because it would be a mom who would ask the same questions that my mom would ask to learn more about eating disorders. I began to imagine my aunt's voice, my father's voice, my grandmother's voice on the other line calling about me, my siblings, or my cousins. These families were lost, and the helpline was there to guide them and give them more information about eating disorders. The helpline has transformed in many ways over the years, first of all, expanding on platforms such as texting and Facebook. And this gets me excited because I work with teenagers and most of them do not like calling. They would often tell me, Jen, do you have a texting line? Do you have like any other resources where I do not have to talk to a person using my voice? So I am super excited to always refer them to the texting line to be like, hey, log onto your Facebook, go and talk to these people. Any helpline that is given to them is always, like I said, always ask for a text line. And this makes it more accessible to people, not only the Gen Z generation, but also people who have anxiety talking over the phone, or maybe do not have the privacy to do so, especially now during COVID times. During COVID, I did see an increase of people, with the pandemic rising, anxiety levels rising, and realizing that the relationship with food was always affected. Many of the teens that I worked with saw that their eating behaviors were changing. Many of them saw that they needed help. And working in a high school where 64% of the population are Hispanic, I see myself in them. I see my community, and they're just not equipped with the information that they need to overcome this battle. Last month was Mental Health Awareness Month, and our team was in charge of providing resources for students. I saw previous posts of resources, and I saw no NEDA helpline. I did not see any of the resources, no number to the NEDA helpline, but lucky for them, they have a NEDA volunteer in their midst of their team. And seeing the impact of eating disorders in my community, I added this very proudly to the list of resources to give out to the students while we were tabling during Mental Health Awareness Month. It was something so small but so impactful to the community, because that's what we're there to do, is to make these changes to inform these students that there are more resources out there for them. This is the inspiration that I take with me every day. This is what keeps me motivated to continue volunteering at NEDA, and I absolutely love every minute of it. Knowing the impact it has on our local and national community, I have spread awareness amongst my family members, who can now proudly say some of the symptoms of an eating disorders and in Spanish, and whip out that information at family parties. And that is what I continue to do. That is what I hope to continue doing, spreading awareness to stop the stigma and give a voice to my community. And my hope is to continue to attend webinars, receive more training, specialize in treatment of eating disorder, to one day become an eating disorder specialist and give back to the community that raised me. Hopefully, I'm able to stay on as a NEDA helpline volunteer to continue raising awareness and giving resources to those in need for many years to come. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, Jen, thank you so much. And you'll have to start changing your number around, because actually it'll almost be 7 years since you've joined the helpline. And it's just as a side note, fun fact for everyone, when I first took on the role of overseeing our volunteer program, Jen was one of the very first people that I interviewed and accepted for the helpline. So the fact that you've been with us for all these years and had the opportunity to watch the helpline grow, and for you to be a part of that growth too, of inspiring of all of our other helpline volunteers to take on the role on the helpline and to help train them and guide them and watch them step up into their careers and move forward as clinicians, researchers, advocates, is a true testament to your commitment to NEDA. So we really appreciate it. So just as a quick last few minute notes, if you have not done so, we got the bingo card. So make sure you write down bingo, B-I-N-G-O, if you have 5 across, 5 down, or 5 diagonal, with your full name in the chat box. And we're going to be taking questions from our audience. So let's take a look at what we have. So it looks like we have a question for everyone, right? Who and what inspired you to recover? So open discussion.
Well, I can say, I mean, speaking to like the importance of support, there was one woman I met in a 12-step meeting for eating disorders early in recovery, first meeting I ever went to, and her name's Emily. And it was like, if Emily can do it, I can too. Emily was a little bit ahead of me in the journey, and I don't know if I'd be here today without Emily. I mean, that just speaks to the power of this kind of connection. You know, so anything you can do to surround yourself with others who are in recovery and really, really trying. I mean, it really helped me. And then, you know, to keep on going, it was the focusing on, what am I getting out of this? Like, not just the body image stuff and all that, but like, what am I really getting out of this? I'm getting my life back. And I really love what Lynnae said, you know, it's the thriving thing. And that really kept me going. I mean, playing guitar, like that was an inspiration. When you have an eating disorder, it's really hard to play guitar for various reasons. But when I chose recovery, I added that to a guitar, and you get a guitar player. So I really tried to think of life things, but I'm excited to hear what you guys have to say.
I guess I'll jump in. I mean, definitely for myself, because I had gone so long just kind of knowing that there was this thing that I didn't really understand about myself, but that I knew I needed help with. I didn't necessarily, the first person who actually supported me was the nutritionist that I was paired with. I didn't find other support until, like I said, later down the line when I started meeting other, I said TGNC before, and I did not explain that. It means trans/gender nonconforming, if you don't know that. Once I started being connected to more people within that community, then that's when I started finding the support. So one, it was for myself, just keeping myself going, especially living in New York City was a big kick in the pants because living in this city, you really have to make sure you're taking care of yourself. Riding the subway and having some very scary moments, that kind of pushed me to keep going in recovery. And also the nutritionist that I was paired with, just the fact that she believes in me so much. Once she switched over, I actually lost her as my nutritionist because she switched over to do some other, some different kind of research. But I knew that she'd equipped me with everything that I needed. And she saw in me that I could do it. And so that I kind of used that, as Jenny was saying, like fake it till you make it. I kind of used that faith and that support that she gave me, and I let that propel me until I was able to kind of do it for myself. So a little bit twofold. And I guess also just, again, like I said, for other, Black kids out there, it's like being able to show like, hey, this is a thing that's possible, but I can't show that unless I commit to myself and I commit to recovering for myself.
Awesome. Great. Well, thank you both for sharing your thoughts on that question. I do have another question. And I think this is another general open one for anyone that wants to jump in, but what encouragement or advice do you have for people currently in recovery who are scared for the unknowns of recovery and life beyond having an eating disorder?
I'll jump in on this one because I struggled with that because I think a lot of us have struggled for a very long time, and it's scary to think of like life without it. And I learned when I was in recovery that it was time to you have to grieve your eating disorder to an extent. But honestly, on the other side, it's so much better. Like, it's just better. Like, it's difficult and it's hard, but there's just something about life out on the other end that is what makes it worth it. So that, for me, that was the encouragement I can give. I know it's hard to say that, but it really gets better once you start.
Okay, great. Emmy, thanks so much for sharing that. So just in the essence of time, I want to make sure that we have enough time to announce our bingo winners, because that's why everyone's here. We're here to win prizes. And so it looks like we do have some bingo winners. Yes, can you let us know who they are?
Sure thing, Gabe. We're just tallying it up now. 1 second. Okay, here are our bingo winners. Irene Ferrara, Ava Michaels, Joelle Thomas, Jennifer Frommer, and Alicia Place. Congratulations, everyone.
Awesome. Well, congratulations to all of our winners. So if you're doing an activity today, whether it's a walk, a run, a bike ride, gathering with your family or friends, please remember to post your pictures. Now, it's okay if you're not a social media user. We still want to hear from you too. Please email any photos to us at walks@nationaleatingdisorders.org. And don't forget, you have 30 days to continue fundraising and to create more awareness for NEDA. And while we're at it, let's stay connected. If you're looking for support, you can visit myneda.org/help support. And if you want to learn how you can get involved, you can visit myneda.org/get involved. And if you want to continue increasing your impact, visit nedawalk.org/warrior experience. And hey, let's be social. You can follow us at all of our social media channels on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And when you post something, be sure to share why you are a NEDA warrior by using the hashtag #NEDAwarrior. I'd like to take a moment today to thank our speakers, Lynnae, Emmy, Jenny, and Jen. Your stories are filled with inspiration and the idea that recovery is possible and that help is available. To all of our NEDA warriors today, thank you for being here and for all the incredible work that you do. On behalf of everyone here at NEDA, we want you to know how much we appreciate you and how much you're valued. As we end today's program, we hope you enjoyed our messages of inspiration. And now today, we would like to close out the presentation with a song from our very own Jenni Schaefer.
Thank you, Gabe. Thank you, everybody, for participating, and NEDA for inviting me. I love the title. I love NEDA Warriors. And I think everybody on this everybody today who's in this chat, all participants, we're all warriors. And here's the guitar I had that I couldn't play for years. It was shoved in the back of my closet. That's kind of where a lot of guitars like to live. And an eating disorder really took away my joy of music, passion. But again, when you add recovery to things, you get your life back. And I learned how to play this thing. I can only play a few songs, but perfectly imperfect. That's more than I used to be able to play. And this song is called It's Okay to Be Happy. And I'd love to leave with another question. And I love metaphors, as you can see, but what is your guitar in life? You know, again, we recover from our eating disorders to get our lives back. What have you shoved in the closet due to an eating disorder or something else? And what can we do today, this week, to really start jumping into life again? Jumping into life. I'm going to bring it back to skydiving. And this song is called It's Okay to Be Happy. And if you want to, you can sing with me. I can't probably hear you, but you can try. When I lose 10 pounds and then lose 5 more. When I'm finally size 6, better yet size 4. When I grow my hair to where it should be. When I look in the mirror and like what I see. Maybe then, maybe then, maybe then I'll be happy. When I buy a big house and I'm out of debt. When I get that job, have a safety net. When I fall in love with that perfect guy, I can take a deep breath, I can start my life. Maybe then, maybe then, maybe then I'll be happy. That's what I believe, that's how I lived. Waiting for that or for this. It was never enough to be where I was, just enjoying the ride, being alright, knowing whatever life throws at me. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be happy. Don't know when it changed, but somehow it did. Guess I got a little tired of the emptiness. So I took some trust and I got some faith. When they found each other, I found this place where it's okay to be happy. Now that's what I believe, that's how I live. I ain't waiting for that or for this. Was never enough to be where I was, just enjoying the ride, being alright, knowing whatever life throws at me. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be happy. Instead of waiting for the sky to fall, it's okay to be laughing at the craziness of it all. Now that's what I believe, that's how I live. I ain't waiting for that or for this. I'm just doing my best in this beautiful mess, just enjoying the ride, being alright, knowing whatever life throws at me. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be happy. If the panelists want to join me, we're doing it 2 more times. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be happy. It's okay, it's okay, it's okay to be happy. Thank you so much. You guys are great. Thanks so much. This was great to be a part of.
Wow, awesome. Jenni, thank you so much for closing out the Warrior experience today with that really beautiful and inspiring song. It was a lot of fun to hear you play. It sounded beautifully over the speakers. So thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. And that concludes the Warrior experience today. So again, everybody, thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it and we hope to see you again very soon.